Gorgeous sight there in D.C., the MLK Memorial. Beautiful, beautiful memorial there on this MLK Day. Well, the Senate had hoped to pass two pieces of legislation, that voting rights legislation, hope to do it by today. That's not going to happen, but they're trying to take up and look at these two pieces of legislation that are supposed to kind of tamp down on what they say voter suppression in many states around the country.
That's correct. And then we all remember back in 2020 seeing these long lines to vote, now early voting controversies, and ultimately the questioning of the election results leading to states. So joining us now is the president and CEO of the NAACP, Derrick Johnson. Derrick, thank you for being with us. And on this MLK Day, we've been listening to and reflecting on the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What do you hope members of the Senate who are preparing, at least we hope to vote on these two bills, to recall, to remember from Dr. King's wisdom?
One thing, to honor his legacy is not to listen to his speech, is actually take action to further the legacy of a more inclusive nation. You cannot do this in a democracy if you are not providing complete and full access to legitimate voters. And so Senate members must take his words to heart and then act upon those words and pass the John Lewis Voter Reauthorization Act and Freedom to Vote Act, because it only is about access to voting. It should not be a partisan conversation.
You said take action is what they need to do, and President Biden last week, and he I don't want to say he apologized, but the White House spokesperson said, well, he didn't mean to offend anyone when he, at that speech, said you're either on this side or you're on the side of folks like Bull Connor, who was a segregationist down in Alabama, the side of George Wallace, the side of Jefferson Davis, the president of the Confederacy. Would you go that far and make that connection the way that President Biden seemed to for a lot of folks, that if you're against these bills, then you're on the side of some historic figures when it comes to white supremacy and segregation?
Well, when you consider the experience of African Americans in this country, we have always been met with resistance to ensure fair access to the ballot box. And those individuals that were named, they not only wanted to block access to the ballot box, they wanted to create a condition of second-class citizenship. Consider Georgia in this moment and some of the repressive laws they've adopted. Even if the will of voters could be ascertained, the state legislatures can overturn the will of those voters. That many poll workers are being targeted and harassed for simply giving up their time because they're not really paid to ensure a fair access to voting. The long lines you will find almost exclusively in African American and Latino precincts, and those lines create unbearable conditions. And if you just provide someone with water, that could be an offense. You consider what just took place in 2020, the fairest election with one of the highest turnout in this nation's history, and a Trump appointee said it was the most secure election. Some of those provisions that were created for COVID protection should be expanded to all 50 states. And so it's not about the words of Martin Luther King that we rest on. The words should propel action. And action for this week is passing Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Reauthorization Act.
Derrick, we want to actually take a listen to some of what President Biden had to say down in Atlanta at the tomb of Martin Luther King Jr. just last week.
Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis? This is the moment to decide, to defend our elections, to defend our democracy.
You actually issued a statement following President Biden's speech saying our democracy stands in its final hour and that America may soon be unrecognizable. What more specifically do you want to see coming from Biden and the administration?
Well, it's time for the Senate to do their job. And as much as this administration could make the case and make sure all members of the Senate perform in the likeness of Dr. King's word. Think about in 2006, 16 members of the Republican Party supported reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act. And today, we only had one Republican to even vote when the bill came on the floor. And they are alleging all kinds of things that are not true. We are simply saying that all citizens of this country should have unfettered access to the ballot box. period. We can no longer send our young people abroad to fight and protect democracy if we're not willing to stand and ensure democracy here domestically. And that's what's most important.
Short of changing the filibuster rules, what way do you see forward to get these bills through?
Well, it's not my job to tell the Senate how to do their job. It is for NAACP to advocate for access to the ballot box, to ensure equal protection under the law and the quality of life that's stated, that social contract we call the Constitution, is fully intact for all citizens. And that's what we're here to do. How they get there is important for them to make sure they do the necessary work to get there. We just, last year, the end of last year, we raised the debt limit ceiling 51 votes. They made an exception to the filibuster rule then. Why can't we do it now?
It's a fair question. Derrick Johnson, we know you're asking it, and will continue to do so. President and CEO of the NAACP, thank you for your time. Thank you for always being a friend of the program.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.